Hey guys, welcome back. We have a new week of astrology to get into. This week to me is probably the least energetically active week of all of our weeks of the month of November, especially as we get towards the end of the week. However, I do a bit hesitate to say that because we also have a Mars Mercury conjunction, which is our primary energetic activation taking place this week, which is a very action oriented energy. Could be a busy week. There could be a lot happening. You could just feel like you are like constantly on the go this week. And this energy also has a tendency of kind of like priming people in situations for conflict, especially things pertaining to our ideas, opinions, beliefs, philosophies about things. People are probably very willing to defend their position, defend their stance on things, and fight for what it is they believe in. Now, we also have Jupiter stationing retrograde in the sky this week. That is expanding the Jupiterian energy generally. This can bring good luck, lucky breaks, good fortune. It can also bring a sense of like optimism or hope. We could feel like we can do it, confidence, belief in our ability to make something happen. Jupiter's also stationing an exact trine to Saturn. That is that master builder visionary energy that I've been talking about for weeks now being amplified this week. And with that Mars Mercury boost, fantastic, absolutely fantastic week, you guys, to like make gains and be productive in terms of bringing some of our goals or our visions or our dreams into the reality. Make a plan and make it happen this week. You will be supported in your efforts. Much better use of the energy than allowing it to just kind of like percolate within you and seeking an outlet for the energy in the context of some type of like interpersonal dispute. If you need to defend yourself, if it's valid, by all means do it. But getting into fights over like little trivial issues, that's what this energy can bring. And it's a waste of this energy when we could use that energy to build something that we've always dreamed of, or that really moves us ahead, or that helps us to grow somehow. So even though this is not the most transit saturated week, we do still have some big stuff going on, especially to get our week started, and I'm here to talk all about it. So let's get into the report, you guys. Let's take a closer look at what we've got going on to get our week started and how things are unfolding for us as we move through our week. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Monday, November 10th, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the day, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. And if you guys stick with me until the end of this video, I have done a collective tarot reading for us today as well. I like to tap the energy field from more than one modality whenever I'm doing these energy overviews, just to get an alternative energetic perspective on what's going on out there. So there could be some messages in there for you. We're going to do that at the end. We have a whole bunch of astrology to get into today to get our week started. As I mentioned in my intro, probably like an action-oriented, maybe like jam-packed week, very busy, lots happening, lots going on, lots of people bothering you, annoying you, irritating you, getting under your skin. You could find yourself feeling like you're on the defensive, like people are just attacking you for no reason. All of that would be as a result of this Mercury-Mars conjunction that we have going on in Sagittarius. That really is the defining energetic characteristic, the transit that's probably impacting us the most throughout the course of the week. These are two personal planets, Mercury, the messenger planet, ruling our mind, our ideas, our thought processes, what we're thinking about, how we're communicating, what we're learning, the type of information that we are, interfacing with, and Mars, the Lord of the battlefield. Mars rules energy, but Mars obviously is also the fire planet. This can heat things up, and it could just be, kind of like a hot-headed, short fuse, like very little patience type of week. We're going to talk all about that specific transit in our report for the day, again, because it is the primary energy that I think most of us are going to be feeling and experiencing throughout the course of the week. But we also have Jupiter stationing retrograde in the sky on Tuesday. That could be a very beneficial influence to be going on the side of the Jupiter or of the Mars Mercury conjunction this week. Or it could also be, to an extent, kind of like expanding some of that Mercury Mars energy because Mercury and Mars happen to be in their conjunction in the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is ruled by, Jupiter. So Jupiter is stationing in the sky. Whenever a planet stations in its motion in the sky, it amplifies the energy of that planet. So we've got a big Jupiterian energy taking place this week. Jupiter is, of course, still an exact trine to Saturn. We're going to talk about that, but the Mercury Mars is also happening in Sag, which is ruled by Jupiter. So, things could be getting a little bit embroiled. They could be going a little bit overboard, over the top. People really may be struggling with a sense of self-discipline or self-control this week. Energy levels are likely to be quite high, and that's a good thing because if we are using this energy properly, it can be highly, very extremely productive and beneficial. If we are not using this energy productively, it can be a very meltdown, kind of self-destructive or self-destruction oriented week as well. So we need to address both octaves that this energy may be manifesting along. But aside from those two things, really, the Jupiter station and also the Mars-Mercury conjunction, we don't have a whole bunch happening this week. I do think, again, this is... it's kind of funny for me to say this because Mercury and Mars together can be a very noisy, distracting, kind of annoying, just busy, as I said earlier, action-oriented energy. But it really is more of a quiet energy week aside from that in terms of the number of transits that are taking place. So, we've got a couple transits happening up front between Monday and Thursday this week that are kind of packing a big punch in terms of their impact. But aside from that, we don't have a whole bunch going on. The energetic activity is really picking back up once we get into the energy of next week. Aside from that Mercury-Mars conjunction and the Jupiter station, we've got the moon doing a couple things. When we open on Monday, the moon is also in a conjunction to Jupiter. We should actually have a pretty high vibe start to the week, although later in the day on Monday the moon will enter the sign of Leo and begin to come into trine with Mercury and Mars in their conjunction. This should be, I think, turning the heat up a bit as we move into Wednesday, which is the exact alignment between Mercury retrograding and Mars in Sag. We're also on Wednesday going to have the moon in Leo squaring Uranus, who recently backed into the sign of Taurus. So there could be maybe a little bit of upheaval, shakeups, sudden shifts and changes that occur unexpectedly in the energy of Wednesday. And Thursday, the moon will enter Virgo and will square Mercury and Mars in their conjunction. So only a couple of things really happening this week, but the things that are happening probably are pretty palpable, are of significance, and they are also being, kind of bolstered and amplified by what the moon is doing throughout the course of the week. After we get through Thursday, I think that things do calm down, chill out. There's really not a whole bunch of energetic activity taking place as we move through the weekend this weekend. However, the sun is moving through Scorpio, continuing to move through Scorpio, and is now approaching the degree range where the sun will begin forming that grand trine in water signs with Jupiter and Saturn, who are in their exact trine right now as well, and also come into a conjunction with the black moon. And what is different, we've had this, if you guys have been following the astrology, you know that we have had these grand trine in water signs with Jupiter and Saturn and Cancer and Pisces being completed and activated as planets are moving through that same degree range of the sign of Scorpio. Jupiter right now is 25 Cancer, Saturn is at 25 Pisces. So when planets are moving through the range of degrees that features 25 degrees of Scorpio, that is filling that last water sign position, creating this grand trine in water signs that has been this ongoing theme throughout the course of this past several weeks. And we had Mercury do it, we had Mars do it. Mercury is actually going to do it again because of his retrograde, but right now we have this sun doing it. And Also, if you guys have been following along, you know that what is kind of like especially unique about this grand water trine is the current position of the black moon right now, actually at 25 degrees of Scorpio as well. So the moon is the black moon is at the exact degree in Scorpio where when planets conjoin it, they are forming that grand trine in water with Jupiter and Saturn. Now, the black moon normally only functions through oppositions and conjunctions. The black moon functions in the context of polarities. So I haven't really been adding it to the energetic equation so heavily in terms of the trine between Saturn, Jupiter, and the black moon specifically, but where it does become a prominent, energy and where it does become significant is when we have these personal planets transiting through the sign of Scorpio and coming into the conjunction with the black moon as they are simultaneously forming that grand trine in water. That is a very rare, unique synchronistic alignment that we've got going on. And as a result of the black moon's presence as well, I do think that, one of the impacts of this grand trine in water is helping us to overcome maybe some fears that have created some limiting beliefs or that have kept us, attached to things that aren't good for us or that have just generally held us back in some type of way. This does truly seem to be a point of having the ability to transcend some of our own shadows and own subconscious issues that maybe had been working against our growth in the past. I do think that we are receiving cosmic support in that specific type of scenario as we move through the grand water trine with that black moon there. I feel like that's really how that is kind of functioning. But we're about to have the sun there, the sun and the black moon aligned together. That is the ultimate shining light into the shadows energy. And with Jupiter in exact trine and Saturn also in trine, this is definitely, I think, providing an opportunity coming up over this next week or so to maybe finally conquer an old fear, especially with all this retrograde energy right now as well. The past in a new light, in a way that is less limiting, less burdensome, less encumbering, or we're less trapped by our own lower dimensional nature for some reason. This could also be gaining wisdom that helps us to overcome maybe some old ego issues and stuff like that as well. And again, that is the energy that we start building into more strongly once we get through Thursday this week, moving through the weekend. And it's definitely going to be a feature of our energy next week. Next week may be a very interesting week, powerful week, magical week that we've got coming in. But all in all, this is, despite the noisy nature of Mars and Mercury in a conjunction, especially in the sign of Sag, this is our quote unquote quietest aspect week. So there may be a bit of a break in action, what I'm trying to say, after we do get through the midpoint of our week this week. But up until then, things could be spicy, things could be feisty, people could be definitely going at it, and there's just going to be people out there looking for a fight, you guys. It's just the name of the game this week. Speaking of games, people are also likely to be hyper competitive and ready to defend their position. Okay, so it could be a week of blessings with that Jupiter station. Good luck. Also maybe excess, also maybe things being a bit over the top, overdone, overblown. We need to make sure with Saturn and Jupiter in an exact trine that if there is excess, we're putting the proper limitations in place. This is all good things in moderation, okay, with Jupiter and Saturn in their trine. Yes, good luck. Yes, blessings. Yes, abundance. Yes, confidence. Yes, faith. Yes, belief. Yes, you can do it. But we do want to practice self-discipline. We do want to try to maintain a level head about things and not get too whipped up and full of ourselves. This could definitely be a know-it-all energy that's coming through this week. So as long as we move through this period of time correctly, this could be a fantastic week. There could be gains, there could be growth, there could be successes, there could be the lucky breaks and stuff like that. Or We could just find ourselves like involved in these disputes over things that have no real meaning, no real consequence, and just end up being a massive waste of time and energy and effort and work. Like, don't put your effort and don't work on things that like aren't giving you a payback in this energy. Don't, you don't need to prove yourself to somebody that is not going to walk away from the situation changed in any type of way. We've got a Mercury Mars conjunction this week. Mercury is the mind, that's our ideas. This is in Sagittarius too. This is like our principles and our philosophies and our beliefs. And Mars is the Lord of War, okay? Willing to defend the position, the belief, the philosophy, whether it's logical or not. All right, this is also Mercury retrograde. And with Mercury retrograde, Jupiter stationing retrograde, I also think there could be like past grievances getting aired out. You may just wake up on, Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday of this week with a bone to pick with somebody about something that happened in the past that you just can't get off of your mind and you feel like you need to air out right now. Again, if there is a valid reason for self-defense in this energy, by all means, defend yourself. Don't let somebody take advantage of you. However, if it is just not that big of a deal, okay? Like, if you're going to live, whether somebody walks away or you walk away thinking you're right or they think they're whatever the situation, use your energy on something that can benefit you. Use your energy on something productive. Use your energy to move yourself forward, to grow something, to build something, to make a plan, really to do anything other than spin your wheels and get involved in these like nonsense, trivial disputes, like just for the purpose of blowing off steam and, maybe proving that you're right in a situation that like ultimately doesn't matter, doesn't make a difference, and doesn't really prove anything to anyone anyways. This could definitely be, as I said, about thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and philosophies. They could also be changing in this retrograde energy, changes and reversals in what we want to go after, what we want to pursue, what we want to put energy into. This could also represent re-engaging something from the past, bringing some old idea back to life maybe, or reinitiating something that maybe we had on the back burner that we dropped off and thought we weren't going to return to for some reason. We could be feeling like that thing needs to come back around. So if you feel called to re-examine something from the past in this energy, or if you find yourself kind of caught up again on some old idea and reconsidering if it's possible again, or maybe if you should give it a second look, that could be an indication that that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Again, very action oriented, kind of larger than life energy this week as well, with the Mercury Mars in Sag, ruled by Jupiter. And not only that, we also have the Jupiter station happening on Tuesday. This is an expansive energy with the Jupiter energy being amplified. This also has a lot to do with actively expanding the mind, broadening the perspective in a way that strengthens our sense of faith or inner knowing as well. Really strong, I would say, kind of intuition, intuitive hunches that could be going on in this energy as well. We are moving through a potent manifestation window right now with the Jupiter Saturn trine. Been talking about it for weeks. Master builder, visionary energy, and we have the fuel to ignite the fire to make those things happen, or to begin bringing them into reality, building the process, building the path, building the plan this week. So we want to use the energy for that. Focus your inner vision on what dreams you want to bring into reality and make a plan to build them physically. I do think that despite perhaps a large level of craziness that is also just generally present this week as well, as a result of that Mars Mercury energy, it is a magical time, and we are moving into a very magical energy. I've been talking about this as well. The spiritual nature of reality could be just very profound right now. If you've got the eyes to see and the ears to hear, you really may be having your faith strengthened somehow by like undeniable spiritual experiences that are just happening around you or moving through you somehow. And good things could very much be happening this week, especially with that Jupiter energy so present as well. Now, let's specifically talk about Monday, getting the week started. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, I do think that we kind of start the week on a bit of a high note. That is because we've got a Cancer moon opening our week, and the moon is moving through the end of Cancer, coming into a conjunction with Jupiter as Jupiter is preparing to station on Tuesday. That is also amplifying this Jupiterian energy, and it's in the context of our emotions. I think for the most part, people should be feeling good, hopeful, confident, optimistic, uplifted. There is, again, this, and also, the moon and Jupiter in the trine to Saturn, a belief in our ability to get the job done, to make it happen, to like take the practical steps to succeed. Also, Saturn retrograding in the sign of Pisces, Jupiter ruling truth. This is emotionally aligning us with like some true wisdom or some soul truths or something like that, that may also be assisting this process of like breaking down these previous barriers to success, previous belief systems that may have blocked our ability to like truly step into our potential. To me, this Saturn Jupiter trine is functioning a couple different ways. On one hand, as I continue to say, it is this master builder energy helping us to solidify a vision into the reality and know what needs to be done in order to manifest that vision into the physical 3D environment. But also a component of this is this broadened viewpoint or this broadened perspective, or expanding our own horizons, so to say, in such a way that liberates or frees us from perhaps some like mental prisons of the past or some old belief systems that had kept us boxed in somehow or kept us separated from maybe coming to understand the real truth of our potential, or what really is possible for us if maybe we do just shift our ideas or our beliefs about ourselves in some type of way. We've also got Neptune right there in the end of Pisces, distorted self-perception, some faulty idea or illusion, or I meant to say faulty ideal or illusion that we have been operating under that maybe has held us back somehow or made us feel like we were less capable of achieving success than we are coming to find or understand that we truly are. So, this Saturn Jupiter trine, and it will be, and it has been again made into a grand trine by the planets transiting through the end of Scorpio, hitting that exact same degree range. The sun is coming next. The black moon is there as well, which again is kind of like putting us in a position where we also maybe need to overcome some fears to gain this greater vision that unlocks our potential and stuff like that. But I do think that's what this grand trine is doing, and I do think for the most part is going to be playing both a productive and a beneficial role in moving us forward, helping us to grow, helping us to expand, and helping us to like transcend past versions of ourselves this week, next week for sure. But really, this whole period of time generally has very much been characterized by that trine as kind of like an undercurrent to a lot of the other energetic activity that has been simultaneously going on. And we do have that going on again this week. And as we get our week started on Monday, the moon right there with Jupiter in that same vibe, and then Jupiter preparing to slow down, stop, and station happening on Tuesday, also amplifying that energy as well. So, the moon and Jupiter together, especially in the sign of Cancer, can also bring a sense of inner comfort, inner security, emotional well-being, and of course, feelings of faith, trust, hope, optimism, getting us off to probably a good start this week. Now, we are also going to have the moon trining Neptune as we begin our week on Monday as well. Neptune right now is at the very last degree of the sign of Pisces. So when the sun hits the very last degree of the sign of Cancer, we're also going to have a Neptune trine. This is creating another very spiritually oriented day for us, very spiritually oriented week actually, but Monday specifically with that moon Neptune trine. You may also feel a bit detached from reality. This is another energy where things could just seem kind of unbelievable or mystical or magical, or you could be interfacing with the spirit world in a more palpable or tangible way than is our typical experience. This can also bring divine inspiration, very, very creative day, or something very emotionally moving, like compassion and empathy and generosity and stuff like that could be kind of part of the flow of the day as well. Now, about halfway through the day, though, I have to say, after the moon does leave Cancer, the moon enters a sign of Leo. The first thing that the moon will do there is form an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, also a square to Venus. So the second half of the day on Monday is not so much like the first half of the day. That could intensify things a little bit. Of course, the moon squaring Pluto could bring up some emotional power struggles going on. There could be some clashes. There could be some issues with getting what we want, with the moon also coming into the square with Venus, and of course with Mercury and Mars also in a conjunction in Sagittarius, which again is a primary feature of our week generally. All week long we're probably feeling this. The moon entering Leo is turning up the heat, I think, in the context of that aspect. As the moon begins to transit through Leo, not only does the moon oppose Pluto, square Venus, but also begins to come into a trine with Mercury and Mars in Sagittarius. So, heated arguments, debates, battles over ideas or information, and people generally just being a bit more short-tempered than they usually are. Let's talk about Tuesday now. Of course, as we know, this is the day when Jupiter stations retrograde. Also, as we know, this is happening in a trine to Saturn. The moon in Leo will also be forming a square to the sun in Scorpio on Tuesday as the Jupiter station comes online. This is our third quarter square energy, so there could still be a level of tension that is present on Tuesday. Although this is a Jupiter day, you guys, you know that when a planet stations, it amplifies the energy of that planet. Jupiter is generally known as the Great Benefic, so there could just be some good stuff that's happening on Tuesday. The visionary nature of the day, also considering Jupiter and Saturn in their exact trine while Jupiter stations being accelerated by this Mars-Mercury conjunction, it really is unrivaled, okay? That's why I'm saying, like, we have the fuel, like, we do have the firepower to put the pedal to the metal and make some significant progress in achieving some type of goal throughout the course of the week this week, if we can use the energy properly. There is a greater benefic influence than normal likely to be operating on Tuesday. You might be feeling this, especially those of you who have water sign planets around 25 degrees of water signs. You really may be feeling the positive impact or the transformative, visionary impact of this transit the most. Jupiter in Cancer is also probably bringing up themes having to do with home or family or community, safety, nurturing, comfort. So anything along those lines could be like extra relevant on Tuesday. And it is just a very great day to work on whatever it is that you want to achieve, that you want to grow, whatever the vision is. I know I keep saying this over and over, but it's just, we don't all the time have such powerful manifestation energy as we do now. So, I urge you guys not to squander it on needless disputes, but to use it productively to move yourself forward, to experience some type of personal growth or progress towards a goal. Another thing, Jupiter and Saturn, you guys, this is not like instantaneous overnight success, instant gratification energy. This is about the long term. This is about the big vision. This is about like legacy and endurance and like the test of time like lasting the test of time type of thing. Like this is about long-term rewards for the work and the effort that we're putting in now, but there are tremendous gains to be made, and the vision or the project or the goal may be more successful or bigger or better or more beautiful than you ever could have envisioned or imagined if you get to it and use the energy properly, as we have this window open for us right now. People are probably going to be more success oriented in their attitude on Tuesday just because of this Jupiterian influence. But the other side of this vibe, okay, Jupiter is great. We love Jupiter. Jupiter expands things. Jupiter uplifts things. Jupiter is wisdom. Jupiter is truth. Jupiter is knowledge. Jupiter is philosophy. Jupiter is like the bird's eye view perspective of things. But when we got a little bit too much, okay, or if it is if it's unmoderated, okay, if it's unlimited, this can also be, like a bit of a know-it-all type of energy. And with that Mars Mercury conjunction in Sagittarius, people are going to be willing to fight to defend their stance on things, especially if they're coming from a place of unconsciousness or lacking awareness in terms of the necessity to use energy correctly in order to reap the benefits of this manifestation window that we have open. The Mars Mercury alignment, as I have stated, comes exact on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we are also going to have the moon in Leo squaring Uranus, who just backed into the end of Taurus. This could be enhancing the already conflict-oriented tendency that we've got operating here. There could be some emotional upsets, inner irritation, maybe stress or anxiety that is going along with things as we move into Wednesday as well. So now let's transition and talk about Wednesday for a minute. Jupiter, Monday and Tuesday may be the high point of the week because we've got the moon Jupiter conjunction to open the week on Monday. Tuesday, Jupiter does station. So again, that is amplifying the energy of this Jupiter energy. But as we do move into Wednesday and Thursday, things could sort of be tipping the threshold of, what's an appropriate amount of excess to maybe like what is a little bit out of control. And so let's now talk about the energy of Wednesday and specifically what we may recognize as symptoms or manifestations associated with the Mars Mercury conjunction, what perhaps we need to be aware of in terms of how this energy does operate. Now, as I have said, and I will continue to state, Mercury and Mars together can be a very useful transit, especially when we've got the great visionary master builder frequency of Jupiter trining Saturn also present for us right now. It gives a greater than average intellectual mental energy that you can work with, okay? You can work with your mind for much longer than your normal standard like mental bandwidth may allow, okay? And of course, that in and of itself is something that enables us to get more done or more accomplished than usual. The mind is energized here. This energy can bring an intellectual competitiveness, though, as I have stated, a fondness even for debates, for arguments, or games requiring this level of mental astuteness or focus or attention. This transit does give a very, very good ability to present your case, to give your position, to do it clearly, to do it skillfully, to defend it very well, and actually to find a relative measure of satisfaction in the act of like arguing something or of defending something or of like mentally asserting yourself somehow. So very great weekend. Lawyers, salespeople, if you got to make a pitch, if you got to make a presentation, if you got to debate something, if you got to argue about something, if you're prepared, if you know everything that you need to know, you're probably going to do really, really well. And if there is like an opportunity for some type of promotion or raise or win or gain based on your ability to verbally assert yourself from like a knowledgeable but like sharp and articulate and brief but accurate position, you could really, again, like impressing higher ups, like making a favorable impact or impression on somebody in a position of authority that can benefit you somehow, very indicated in the energy of this week. So if you've got stuff like that going on, make sure you're prepared, but don't hold back, because you can really be recognized in a positive way. Now, on the other hand, we're talking about Mars, that's the ego. We're talking about Mercury, right? That is the mind. I notice that when we have Mars in a conjunction or in a tight alignment or tight aspect with one of the personal planets, oftentimes our ego interferes with our ability to like separate ourselves from whatever that other energy represents. Okay, so like when we've got Mars and the moon together, feeling like we are our feelings, like there's no separation there. When we've got Mercury and Mars together, we feel like they're not just our ideas, but that is us. Like we are our ideas. We are our opinions. We are our beliefs or our philosophies. And if we feel like somebody is attacking or criticizing our ideas or our beliefs or our philosophies, there's like a strong difficulty separating that from the self, like realizing, like they're just being critical of my idea, and they're not coming for like a total onslaught on me as a person. And because oftentimes there's an inability to separate the ego when we've got Mercury and Mars together from the ideas, people then can feel very entitled in defending themselves brutally or rashly or viciously, because it's not just an attack or criticism of the idea. We take it as like a personal attack on us, and therefore feel justified in lashing out to the same extent. Okay, so if you find people just like really on the defense over every little thing in this energy, it's because of the over-identification of the ego with essentially like everything that we think and everything that we believe and everything that we think we know when we've got Mercury and Mars coming together like this. So you may find that people kind of are taking themselves too seriously, taking their ego too seriously, speaking and acting as though they are just looking for a fight. If we're not careful, if we're not conscious of the way that we are using our words, the way that we are acting in this energy, it often can be perceived as just a little bit aggressive, okay? You may also find that you have very little patience with basically everything. You may feel very irritated, very annoyed by things that may generally not bother you, or under other circumstances you may find to be quite trivial, but for whatever reason in this energy, it's just like you can't take it. People are likely to be very overly defensive, making mountains out of molehills. Needless conflicts are generally indicated, and people on the defense, defending ideas, defending beliefs, defending positions about everything. You may also encounter someone who seems to be like overly defensive towards you for some reason, or like actively attacking you for what reason you have no idea. But again, remember, there's this element of the past as well, like past grievances that we just can't live with and have to blow the lid on, or have to get off of our chest, or have to tell somebody about in this energy as well. Remember, Mercury is the messenger planet. Mercury's retrograde. So people may really be addressing some past grievances, okay, in the energy this weekend. And the advice, I said this, I think I said it in my intro. I hope that I've said it at least once so far in the report for the day, but the best advice in this circumstance, when we have this type of energy going on, is considering whether you have something real to defend before deciding to fight over it, okay? Don't run away from defending what is valid, what is necessary, what is real, what is true, and what deserves a valid defense, but Also, probably try not to fight just for the point of fighting, because that is a massive waste of energy that could be being channeled into something that is productive for you, that is helping you grow, that is moving you forward, that is building something for you, that is aligning you somehow with where it is that you truly want to be. It is best in this energy to intellectually determine what your true concerns are, what ideas you really need to defend in order to maintain your integrity. And if things don't fall into those categories, try your best to brush them off, to redirect, and to place your energy where it can be productive, as opposed to just needless, or where it turns into nothing, or worst of all, where it is in some way self-destructive. If you can make this determination and stick to it, it will be much easier to curb the negative manifestations of this transit if they do arise, and also to extract and to use the usefulness of this energy effectively in a way that benefits you. So, if you find yourself struggling a little bit, just feeling like you need to take a couple of deep breaths, maybe step back, put yourself in timeout for a bit, it's not a bad thing to do. We do, and give grace also, give yourself some grace if you do kind of have a little bit of struggle in this energy. I think that it's going to be like a common theme, and we're kind of all going to, but if you do have the ability to, reel it in a little bit, redirect the energy, and, even if it's just like needing to get outside, needing to work out a little bit more, like even if it's just like finding a more productive outlet to the energy, I would recommend using it that way, as opposed to like engaging in all of these needless disputes that ultimately are unconsequential, don't change anybody's position, and just equate to a waste of time. It's probably going to be busy. Again, as I said in the beginning, action-oriented, fast-paced, especially as we get the week started. But really, really great energy to be productive if we can keep a handle on it, all right? Avoid the drama. Try not to let everything, little thing, get the best of us. Like, this is also a good test, I think, in terms of our ability to gauge whether our emotions have power over us, or if we are at a point where we are able to, exert a level of conscious control and influence over maybe some of these more embroiled emotions that could be coming up or arising from within. Contests and competitions, of course, as I've stated, major theme this week. This could also be like sports and games and rivalries and stuff like that are highlighted for some reason. We have the degree actually where Mars and Mercury are coming into their alignment. Now that is a competitive, again, like argument oriented, kind of like two sides going at it type of energy itself, but the alignment's also at 6 degrees of Sagittarius, and that Sabian symbol is a game of cricket, which is re-emphasizing that very same theme symbolically. So yeah, we could definitely see two teams or two parties or two individuals or just like two sides of something going at it, rivalries, competition going on. We also have the sun on Wednesday at 21 degrees of Scorpio. That Sabian symbol is obeying his conscience. A soldier resists orders. And we have the earth at 21 Taurus. That Sabian symbol is a moving finger, points to significant passages in a book. So, both the themes of perhaps some disorderly conduct, disobeying orders, rebellion, non-compliance type of vibes could definitely be present with this as well. And also maybe actively learning something, actively discovering something, gaining some type of significant information or insight, like finding something of value or of significance in terms of information that we are gaining access to somehow. And an active process, retrograde, Mercury retrograde, of rethinking, reconsidering, course corrections represented here as well. And the past, old ideas, old considerations maybe being reignited, or past grievances maybe being brought up again in a way that they're being forced to be aired out as well. On Thursday, we are going to have the moon enter the sign of Virgo and actually come into a square with Mercury and Mars, still in a conjunction in the sign of Sagittarius. So, Thursday, that Mercury-Mars conjunction is being triggered by the moon in square as well. The moon will be in Virgo. That actually is one of Mercury's signs. There could be fights going on over like what people perceive as like right and wrong in terms of data or facts or information. There could be a lot of people arguing over sides of the story, narratives, what is correct and what is incorrect, what is right and wrong, like one person's perception of how things happen coming up against somebody else's that could be causing some type of conflict, information wars, battles of the narrative, people just like unable to get on the same page with one another, and conflicts resulting as a result of that could be coming up as well. Thursday could definitely be a bit of I don't know, just like bumpy day, another day where interpersonal dynamics could be a bit more hostile, perhaps. Oh, and I also forgot to tell you guys, I meant to say this at the very beginning of the video. I actually had it written down in my notes, but I like totally skipped over the first few pages of my notes because I just started talking and said what I needed to say in my notes, and I didn't want to reiterate all of that. But I meant to tell you guys, I'm actually only going to have 2 videos this week as well, because it is one of our slower energy months of the month of November. It's also my son's birthday, the second week of November, and so I'm going to take advantage of the lack of activity happening astrologically to spend some extra time with him for his birthday. So I'm going to put this video out. My next video, it may go out on Thursday, but I might just put it out on Friday. So either Thursday or Friday, look for the video from me going over the energy forecast for the second half of the week. And that is basically what I have to say about our energy forecast for today. I hope that wasn't like all over the place and super discombobulated. For some reason, I have had like a hard time staying focused and on track. My mind has been like jumping all over the place as I've been doing this report, and I hope it doesn't come through that way. I hope that it was easy to follow, but please forgive me if this was not my most streamlined energy forecasts. I hope it went okay. But anyways, that's basically what I have to say. Starting out, I think, on a bit of a high, and then Tuesday also, there is likely to be this, I don't know, feeling like everything's going to be okay, or we can do it, or we have confidence in the direction of things, or I don't know, faith, spirituality, like trusting the plan, trusting the process. But definitely people are probably going to be a little bit angry this week, a little bit unable to maybe control their temper to the same extent, lacking patience, lacking discipline, lacking the ability to like detach themselves from their ego and deal with constructive criticism. Like, even if you do have constructive criticism for someone, this is probably just, not the week. There are weeks for that. This just may not be it. People are just gonna have a difficult time taking things as they're meant if they are, more critical, especially of like the thoughts or the ideas or the beliefs or the opinions about stuff. So that's what I have to say, you guys, about energy as we move through the first part of our week this week. We have a tarot reading to get into. It's funny because our tarot message, I feel like, is very well aligned with what we've got happening astrologically as well. We've got the Two of Wands coming out. This is a visionary card. This guy's literally standing here holding the world in his hand, and in my perception, I feel like he's thinking about what he's gonna do next, what all is possible, like what he could build, what he could create, what he wants his world to look like. the direction to take things, the potential of it all. So there could be something going on this week, which would make sense with the Jupiter-Saturn trine being amplified and emphasized, and us moving into that grand water trine with the Sun trining Jupiter and Saturn next week. A lot of people may be really finding themselves like pensively considering what the next step is, where they want to go, what they want to create, what they want to build, what is possible, what the potential of something is. And then we've got the Queen of Swords in reverse. So this could actually be quite detached or quite separate from what we may previously have conceived of as the logical approach. It does kind of seem like kind of throwing logic and the facts or the right way of doing things, or maybe even kind of like disregarding like a previous conception of what we thought was possible. Again, back to that thing about like breaking down the barriers and the limitations associated with the beliefs and the stories and the thought patterns of the past. There could be a distancing or a detachment from the previous mental programming going on here, what we used to think was possible. But there seems to be like a lack of care or consideration for whether it's logical or whether it's practical, or whether the facts support the data or the decision or the choice. It does seem like a much more visionary energy being spoken of here than an energy that is like truly rooted in like a step-by-step approach. Now on the back of the deck, we've got the Nine of Pentacles, which it's also like, this is also kind of saying to me like trying to find maybe like an outside of the box way of achieving the goal or getting to the destination or creating some type of success for ourselves. We have the Ten of Pentacles and the Wheel of Fortune actually underneath that. There could also be like, this could also be sort of like disregarding the rules, disregarding the protocols, disregarding like the step-by-step process that is commonly associated with attaining some level of success. Again, it's like I feel like this energy is sort of like stepping off the beaten path. Like, yeah, we could do it this way. Yeah, it's traditionally done this way. Yes, this is the standard way of getting to that destination. But this is, to me, sort of like thinking of alternative options, alternative routes. Like, we could do it that way. Like, that way has proven itself in the past, but that's also, like that way also requires like a lot of unnecessary burdens, or like, yeah, maybe that's the standard way of doing it, but like maybe that's also the hard way of doing it. And maybe there's an alternative method or system that we could, figure out and apply to switch things up to get to where we want to get to quicker. Again, it's also making me think of revisions and corrections and maybe like realigning what we thought was the plan in order to enhance our ability to like get to the goal quicker and in a more, successful way somehow. So there could definitely be some like turns of fate coming through here that help us to actually like stop needing to put so much effort in to somehow like get the same result somehow. So if you feel like you need to kind of like switch things up or think outside the box a little bit, or like realign your like processes somehow to remove unnecessary steps or to make things less burdensome or difficult along the path to like achieving your outcome or getting to where you want to be, you could get some insight in that regard throughout the course of this week as well. Like there could be some inspiration that comes through here that shows you how to do things in a different way in order to achieve the same, if not better, outcome that you would have if you, kept going under the same system or the same approach that you had been taking previously. But I do think this is about some type of visionary moment that maybe has us reconsidering what we believed to be true, what we thought was the proper plan or the proper process, and maybe like coming to understand that it doesn't need to be as hard for some reason as we've been making it, or maybe as we thought that it was. So maybe that makes sense to some of you guys out there. Maybe that applies in the context of what you're working towards or what you've got going on. But again, like my whole message for this week really comes down to, let's use the energy to propel ourselves forward, and let's not just like spin our wheels getting involved in these needless disputes because we're just like irritated and somebody's got to take on our wrath. Okay. But again, like a lot of people are going to be handling it that way. So if you find yourself just innocently going about your business and not bothering anybody, and all of a sudden like somebody's coming for your throat, it's probably more about them and their need to, act on that Mars Mercury energy than it is about you. So again, like try not to take things too personally, you guys. Try not to let people get to you, okay? And people are going to be trying also, like especially if you have situations or relationships or interpersonal dynamics with people who often like to like pick on you or like know what your weaknesses are and kind of like hone in on them just to get a response from you. This is like prime time energy for that type of thing, and you are much better off just not allowing yourself to emotionally like get involved. Look at those people as a research study, a case in Mercury Mars, very analytical. Oh yes, I do observe your behavior, I do see how you're acting and how you're responding, and I do understand that you are a very good example demonstrating some of the ways that this energy can operate. But you don't need to get super involved. You don't need to get into the drama. Redirect, let them say what they need to say. Don't take it to heart. Let it roll off your back. Don't attach to it. Don't take it seriously. Instead, take your beautiful, beautiful energy and focus it into something that is making you grow, that is making you shine, that is making you bigger and you better, and that is aligning you more with your true potential. That is where the rewards come in this energy, you guys. We do not need to do the other thing, okay? It may be very difficult again, but trying not to get involved, I do think, is a better way to use the energy this week. I'm going to get one more card now. This is a synchronicity card. This is going to be a message from God, Great Spirit, Universe, however you connect to that divine life-giving presence out there. That is where this energy or where this information is coming from. Let's see what our card says. Drink of inspiration. As cold water to a weary soul, so is good news from a far country. Proverbs 25:25. And that's interesting to me that we have Proverbs 25:25 right here, drink of inspiration, because the trine between Jupiter and Saturn is 25:25. 25 Pisces, 25 Cancer. That is where the trine is. Jupiter is stationing at 25 degrees of Cancer. So 25:25, you guys. You thirst spiritually when you lack joy, peace, inspiration, and confidence. Claim the living waters of the Almighty flow through you as wisdom, truth, and beauty, and as joy, harmony, power, and love. Accept this all as your own, and you will then draw from your spiritual waters all you need to give sustenance to your soul. Playing right into the Jupiter station in the trine to Saturn in these water signs. So even the cards are redirecting us away from the Mars Mercury conjunction back into that Jupiter Saturn trine. We want to focus our energy there on what we are building and growing and creating, and the divine inspiration that is present to flow through us right now to facilitate and assist our effort in that regard. Visionary master builder energy. And Jana Shellman, who wrote these synchronicity cards, one of my very first subscribers, who gave me this deck so many years ago now. Whenever I would draw this card, she would for the show, she would always leave a comment and say that whenever she would draw this card, it would make her feel like she needed to drink some extra water. So bringing her into the story for today as well, you may want to make sure that you're staying hydrated this week. And with all of that fire energy, Mars and Mercury and Sagittarius and the Leo moon that we're going to have Tuesday and Wednesday as well, maybe countering that to an extent by making sure that we are upping our water intake. There could be some wisdom in there also. So that's what I have to say today, you guys. Message from the stars, message from the cards. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope there was something in there for you somehow. If you did like it, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think they would also enjoy this type of astrology content. Leave me comments. Let me know what's going on with you out there. If you guys are having experiences that align with what I'm talking about in this video and any of my videos, definitely drop me a comment. Tell me about it. Let me know. That is very valuable information to me. Thank you guys so much for being here. I truly value your presence on my channel. So thank you guys again. I love you. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group where I post images of those boards linked in my description box below. So check the description box, click the link. That's where you can find the full image of these boards. And come back with me later this week, you guys. Again, it'll either be Thursday or Friday. I haven't decided which yet, but I will have part 2 of this week's energy forecast. So you don't want to miss it. Again, even though we do have a bit of a quiet weekend coming up, there are some things to be aware of, as next week is going to be another week where we've got some big things happening energetically, most notably the Grand Trine in Water featuring the sun. That's like the biggest show of them all, and the black moon alignment as well. So a lot more to talk about. I'll be back to do it later this week. You don't want to miss it. I will see you then, guys. Have a beautiful introduction to your week, and until next time, bye.